Hey there, and welcome to your Airdrie Real Estate Market update for June 2024. And it's a new month, so we have all of our May numbers ready to go. So let's go through them and see what's going on with our real estate market here in Airdrie, Alberta. Now, if you're a regular watching these updates, thanks for watching, and you know the drill here. Please take a second, scroll down and hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new here, thanks for being here, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our future updates. All right, well, let's get into it. We're gonna go over the general Airdrie stats first, followed by the stats for the 4 styles of homes in our market, and then we're going to go into the price range market breakdown. I'll touch on the interest rate news that we've had this month, and lastly, I'll offer my thoughts on where I think we're going to see this market go from here and what that might mean for you. Well, let's bring up our Airdrie market stats for May and see what happened in the last month. Now, starting off with our sales, we had 210 listings sell within the month, which is fairly on par with the last few months, but a little bit less than previous years for the month of May. And this is actually the first time in 2024 that we've seen a year-over-year decline in our sales numbers. Up to this point, we've been beating our 2020 to 2023 sales every month, and by quite a large margin too. But this May, our sales ended up 7% less than the last year's May sales. But that's just one stat. Let's take a look at the rest to get the full picture. So if we look at our new listings for May next, we had 278 new listings come to the market, which is slightly higher than last year, as you can see on this chart here, with 2024 in blue and 2023 as the green line, but still a lot lower than the new listings we saw in 21 and 22. And that brings us to our current inventory. To start June, we had 208 active listings in Airdrie, which is actually a pretty good jump over last month where we had just 160 listings. So similar to listings, you can see here that our inventory is slightly higher than 2023, but still quite a bit lower than 21 and 22. Now, all these numbers give us a current month supply of pretty much exactly 1 month at 0.99 months supply, which still puts us very much in a seller's market, but not as much as we've seen the last couple months. So to me, these numbers look like we could be looking at the market cooling down into the summer a little bit earlier than expected. Not that we're going to see prices come down, I don't think we're going to see that, but there is a good chance that we may have seen most of our price increases for 2024 in the first 5 months of this year. Now, on topic of price, our benchmark price, which overall is up 1.2% in the last month, will likely continue going up over the next couple months, but I don't think we'll see a huge price increase throughout the rest of the year. But of course, the one wild card that we have this year is the interest rate changes with the rate drop that we saw in June, which I'm going to chat about a little bit later in the video. But those are just our general stats, so let's take a look at the different housing styles to get a better idea of what specifically is happening within each of these different segments of the market. And of course, for this, we'll be looking at detached homes, semi-detached homes, townhouses, and condos. So starting first with our detached homes, here we had 112 sales in May and 157 new listings, which gave us an inventory of 143 single family homes to start June with, which means that we have 1.28 months supply for single family homes right now. So in terms of that stat, as you'll see, the detached market is the slowest market of the 4 right now, but of course it really depends on the price ranges, which we're going to get into after this bit. Now, for prices on detached homes, our benchmark price is up 1.2% in the last month, bringing us to a benchmark price of $651,000 for a detached home here in Airdrie. Now, moving on to the semi-detached homes or duplexes, here we saw 16 sales in May and 17 new listings, which left us with just 10 homes for sale to start June with. That means we're still sitting at just 0.6 months of supply for the semi-detached market, only about 2.5 weeks of supply, and unlike detached homes, the month's supply actually dropped a bit last month in this segment. Now, as for pricing, semi-detached is also up 1.2% in the last month, now at a benchmark price of $501,600, and this is the first time that our semi-detached homes have reached over that $500,000 mark for their benchmark price. Now, moving on to townhomes, in May we had 66 sales and 80 new listings, but we ended the month with just 39 active listings, which means we have a month's supply of just 0.59 months for those townhouses. Getting close to just having half a month's supply for the townhouses is pretty ridiculous. So of course, it's no surprise that we saw prices go up on those townhouses of 1.4% in the last month, up to a benchmark price of $381,400. And lastly, let's take a look at our condo market here in Airdrie. We had lower condo sales in May, but it's mostly because we started the month with so few active listings. We just had 9 listings to start May with, but we ended up seeing 16 sales within the month and 24 new listings, which gave us 16 active listings to start June with. And that gives us about exactly 1 month's supply for the condo market right now. And as for pricing, condos had the biggest increase in the last month with a 1.6% increase in the benchmark price, which is now sitting at $289,000. So in general, all styles are still very much in a seller's market, but the semi-detached and the townhouses are in the highest demand right now, mostly due to the price ranges that we see those styles in. So on that, let's take a look at those price ranges and see what's going on. So starting with the $0 to $300,000 range, here we had 13 sales in May, all of which were condos, and we currently have 12 active listings. Now sales in this range last month had on average a firm sale in just under 2 weeks and sold for an average of 1% above their list price. Now moving to the $300,000 to $500,000 range, here we saw 69 sales in May, and we currently have just 49 active listings. So just 0.7 months supply in this range right now. Now of those 69 sales, we saw only 10 of them sold for under the list price, with the average sale being 2 to 3% above that list price in this range. And now let's look at the $500,000 to $700,000 range. In this segment, we had 98 sales in May, and we currently have 83 active listings. So there's a lot of activity in this range, and this range is where we see a lot of our starter detached homes in now. So currently we have 0.84 months supply here, so still under a month's supply, which means it's going to be a pretty tight market. And looking at out of those 98 sales, just 18 of them sold for under their list price, with the average being sold for about 1% above the list price, and our average days on market in this range for a firm sale is 17 days. Now keep in mind that as we go up in price, the activity slows down a bit. For example, instead of 500 to 700, if we were to look at 650 to 700, now you're looking at an average sale price of exactly the list price and an average days on market of 23 days. So now looking at our $700,000 to $900,000 price range, here we had 29 sales in May. We currently have 44 active listings. So this becomes the first price range where we have over 1 month's supply with 1.51 months of supply. So you probably won't be surprised to hear that the average sale in this range was right at the list price, and the average days on market is a little bit higher at 34 days. Now this range is slower than the lower price ranges, but being under 2 months supply is still a seller's market, and an average sale in 1 month is still pretty quick stuff, considering we're talking about properties in the 700s and 800s. Lastly, let's look at our $900,000 and above range here in Airdrie. Here we had 5 sales in May. We currently have 30 active listings. So similar to what we've seen in previous months, this is where our market really slows down. 6 months of inventory in this range definitely puts this price range in a buyer's market right now. Now, as for those sales that we had in May, on average they sold for 3.7% below their list price and had an average days on market of 49 days. So you can see with that much listing competition in the higher price range, it's definitely making it trickier to sell around the million mark here in Airdrie. So now we've seen a lot of stats on our market here. I wanted to touch on the interest rate news this month before I chat a bit about where I think I see our market heading into the summer. So you likely heard that the Bank of Canada reduced their rate here in June, so this affects the variable mortgages right away. So if you currently have a variable or you're getting one, this is good news for you. But if you have a fixed mortgage rate, nothing changes for you quite yet, as our fixed rates follow the bond market, not necessarily the Bank of Canada rate. But the big question is, what does this mean for our market? Well, if we weren't looking at interest rates and just going strictly off the stats that we're seeing in our housing market in Airdrie right now, I'd say that it looks like we're starting to slow down a bit into the late spring and early summer. Similar to what we've seen the past few years, I'd expect to see our benchmark price continue to increase slightly for a couple more months before leveling off throughout the rest of 2024. But the interest rate news is kind of our wild card in the market right now. You see a lot of people saying that once the rate drops, our prices are going to skyrocket again. I personally don't think that's what we're going to see. Although lower rates will help buyers with their approvals, it'll also give sellers more freedom to sell and buy another home with an interest rate that's a bit closer to the rate that they have right now. So it could mean more supply and more demand in our market, which if both of those move at the same time, it might not have a huge effect on the market. But ultimately, 0.25% isn't going to crank up the heat a ton. I think that we'd have to see more reductions through the rest of the year to really see it starting to affect our market much. So at this point, I don't think we're going to see a ton of changes in our market due to the interest rates. Well, that's all I have for you this month. If you have any questions, please post them below in the comments or reach out to me directly. I hope you learned something about our market today, and we'll see you in the next video.